Hey there, welcome to Flocked, a podcast about life, love, purpose, and everything in between. A collection of stories, real life lessons, inner wisdom, and just sometimes my ridiculous ramblings. Join me, Flo Porter. Let's get flocked.
It seems poignant that I would start with a story about chickens. Funnily enough, in the last week or two, we've had baby chickens born. It's actually the first time ever in my obsession with chickens and chooks that we've actually ever had a mama hatch her own eggs. She's this gorgeous little bantam, and she's just like the best mum ever. And I'm adoring watching it. The way that she just knows what to do, and the way those babies know what to do, and they're so tiny out there in the chook pen with all the other chooks, and yet she's totally got them. She's the only bantam actually, so she's the smallest chook. But those babies, oh, they adore her. Anyway, in the midst of all this, my teenage daughter said that they were hatching chickens in biology and that she was allowed to bring one of them home. Initially, I thought how cool it would be to just add another chicken to Mummy Chooka's brood, but I didn't really realise what would actually happen when you try to introduce a 3-week-old chicken to a very good mother with 1-week-old chickens. Anyway, she wasn't altogether keen. My daughter brought the chicken home, a cute little number called Little Cheap, and we tried to work out what to do. I felt really weird about the chicken, one little chicken on its own. We took it out to the chook pen, had an unsuccessful introduction to the other chooks, and realised we'd have to bring it inside and brood it ourselves. Now, before she was actually allowed to bring the chicken home, we were sent home a form from school, and it was to do with the ethics committee and them being actually able to take a live animal home, making sure that we had all the facilities and everything in place to be able to look after the chicken. So we needed proof that we had a heat lamp or some form of heat and way of keeping the temperature stable for them, food, water, and a brood box. My daughter was quite stressed about this and really wanted to do the right thing. And she kept saying to me, it's the ethics committee, which was kind of giving me a little laugh. But then I thought, nah, that's probably a cool thing. You don't want everybody bringing home a pet chicken and then not really knowing how to look after it. We're pretty chicken obsessed around here, so I thought we'd be the best parents ever. The chicken, though, seemed a little bit weird. Pretty soon after getting home, it seemed kind of extremely stressed, and I noticed it wasn't really eating or drinking very much and was sitting down and pretty sleepy. I thought maybe it just, I don't know, didn't have enough heat. So did a few things to kind of improve its heat. Still wasn't able to get it to eat or drink much. Let it sleep. Put it in its special chicken box near the heater. By late last night, I was still worrying about it and thinking it was a little bit weird, and I started to feel anxious. Anxiety is something that I've had on and off my whole life, but I really do recall it being a big thing when I was a kid and really fretting about animals and pets. In fact, I used to always get really sad because I felt like sometimes those animals were sad. Anyway, by the time I woke up, it was really still quite early and everyone was still asleep. So I snuck down the stairs because I didn't want to stress anyone out. I thought we might find the chicken dead, but it was still there, quiet, not peeping as chickens do, and just sitting in the corner. When I reached towards it, it was kind of backing away from me. I thought I was really scared and I tried to get it out. But when I did get it, what I actually realized was happening is that the chicken could only walk backwards. It wasn't eating, it wasn't drinking, and it was just kind of walking in these weird backwards circles and seemed extremely stressed. So I sat with myself for a little while and I tried to work out what was going on. And I just had this feeling the whole time that in a chicken that had been hatched in a hatchery and had 5 other chicks around it all the time, to then be put in a box and brought home was probably extremely disconcerting. I know that chickens need other chickens, and if you're trying to introduce them into another flock of chooks, it's really good if they have at least one the same age as them, because otherwise they get picked on. And I just was sure, like 100% sure, that the one thing this chickie needed was one of its little chickie brothers or sisters. So I said to my daughter, I don't know what's wrong. The chicken's a bit weird, and I think there's some neurological issue, something going on with it. I researched it on Dr. Google, found these really funny sites in America where people talk about all this kind of stuff. Crazy chicken people, probably not unlike me, and how, they'd experienced this before and these things helped. Maybe a heat lamp would help, or better heat lamp. Maybe the chicken was dehydrated and that was causing neurological problems. Maybe it was a nutrient deficiency. So quite early in the morning, I sent her a text. She's downstairs. I was upstairs. She would have been asleep. I was awake, just saying, hey, I really think maybe you should find out who else took a chicken home and see if our chickie can go with them, or we can have an extra chicken here. Maybe contact the teacher. And then by the time that she'd come upstairs, she said she'd spoken to the teacher and he said it would be okay to get another chicken. By then, I was pretty concerned that this little backwards walking, not eating or drinking chicken was probably going to die. So I said, maybe get 2 chickens just in case, because if we lose one, then there'll still be 2 and they'll have each other. And I think that's important. So she headed off early to school to pick up a chicken or 2. And I went straight to the pet shop to have a chat to the really nice man who knows me, because I'm always in there buying stuff for our menagerie, like rabbit food and kitty litter for the rabbits and stuff for the dogs and stuff for the cat, and always stuff for the chickens. And we had hermit crabs for a while, but yeah, that they didn't last that long. He didn't really seem to know, and we discussed all the physical things, should I get a heat lamp? Do I need to get something more nutritional or medicated, chickie crumble? What are the physical things that I can do that maybe will help this chicken? And he didn't really know, but, made a few suggestions, said, it sounds like you're doing all the right things, I don't think you need anything different. Just, go home and see what happens. By the time I got home, my daughter had been to school and picked up 2 more chickies. And by the time that I got home, little Cheap was up and eating and walking forwards and running around with his or her brothers or sisters. I cannot believe it. Well, I can. I really think that little chickie, little Cheap, was having emotional trauma. I think little Cheap was pining and super stressed, not just by the change of environment, but by the loss of the other chickens. And I'm pretty 100% sure that as soon as the other chickens arrived, little Cheap felt better. And then she started to eat. And she hasn't stopped eating since. And they haven't stopped peeping and running around and doing things that little chickens should. And I think it's a really great beginning story for Flocked, because one of the things that I believe more than anything in the world is that we need other people. We cannot, nor were we designed to be these solo, independent people who can manage ourselves and do everything ourselves and not be loved and adored and comforted and connected to others. And I think either little Cheap would have died, or maybe gotten used to that and started to eat and drink again, because otherwise she would die. And chickens are pretty tough and evolutionarily set up to, live. So 1 or 2 things would have happened if we didn't get some more chickies for little Cheap. But when we got the chickens, little Cheap came back to life. I hope that you'll join me. I hope that you'll flock together with me while we explore all the things about life and love, and more stories about little Cheap.